All right. This ain't just a show. This is a platform. Veteran built, battle tested. Welcome to the MisFitNation. Yeah! Mic in a room, built from boots on the ground, now we breaking the rules. 2 vets, 1 leader, painting the sound, turn scars into sermons, let them echo around. Authors with truth, musicians with fire, actors backstage chasing something higher. Entrepreneurs bleeding just to get ahead. If you fought for your dream, yeah, you are what you said. If they told you no, if you still came back, if you fell to your knees but you stayed on track, this is your voice, this is your flame. Say it loud, remember the name. No salvation, just elevation. We rise again. From the fight to the end. We are the MisFitNation. No damn labels, no damn cages. If you're still breathing, you belong. Turn it up. This is our song. Yeah. This is our song. Yeah. Veterans standing with ghosts in the chest. First responders running in while the world second guess. Gold star names carved deep in the soul. Your story ain't over, we carry the whole. Coaches teaching mindset, breaking the chains, turning barely alive into owning the pain. Truth over polish, scars on display. If it's real, let it bleed. That's the misfit play. If it's heavy right now, and the dark feels cold. If it's heavy right now, and the dark feels cold. If it's heavy right now, and the dark feels cold. It's stop right now. We're the more than you know. Don't walk alone. Veterans press 1, bring it home. Don't trade forever for tonight. You're still needed in this fight. We are the MisFitNation, built from scars and dedication. We rise again. From the fight to the end. We are the MisFitNation. Every voice is fabrication. From the silence to the scream, we're strong. Welcome home, you belong. You belong. You belong. Oh wait, you. Oh wait, you belong.
Good evening, MisFit Nation. Surprise, it is me, Jake, tonight instead of Rich. But hey, you got me. We're gonna sit here. We're gonna talk about great stuff, and we're gonna take your questions. I encourage you to get on there and pop off some questions to us. I have some updates for those of you that follow the MisFitNation and follow Rich on Facebook. Rocky has been found after probably about a week out running around in the wild. He was found today, dirty and nasty. I would say he probably got a bath, got some good food, and got lots of love when he showed up to the house. So I want to say welcome home, Rocky. Now, MisFitNation, tonight we are honored to welcome back a man whose life has been defined by service, sacrifice, and leadership. Our guest is Chief Warrant Officer for Michael Carmichael. He's a retired U.S. Army Special Forces Green Beret who served our nation for 26 years, including 22 in Special Forces, 10 combat deployments across Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, and throughout the Middle East. He answered the call to serve before he was even out of high school, joining the Montana National Guard at just 17 years old. That journey eventually led him into America's most elite fighting force, where he spent decades leading soldiers through some of the most dangerous missions of the global war on terror. But tonight isn't just about the battles he's fought overseas. It's about the battle that's happening here at home. After retirement, Michael discovered that many veterans were facing the enemy that couldn't be defeated with training or firepower. loneliness, isolation, and suicide. That's why he founded Check Event. That's a nonprofit dedicated to one simple but powerful mission, making sure no veteran fights alone. Tonight, we'll talk about leadership under pressure, the hidden cost of war, transitioning from combat to civilian life, and why one phone call or one conversation can literally save a life. Whether you're a veteran, first responder, military family member, or somebody looking to become a better leader and a better human being, this conversation is one you won't want to miss. So please help me welcome Chief Warrant Officer 4 retired, Michael Carmichael.
Jake, that was very sweet. Hey, thank you so much. I only deserve a third of that. I say if you stay in the same place for a long time, you might get to do something neato. So I did a couple of things neato, but thank you so much for that.
Hey, you are very welcome, and welcome to the show, Michael. Now, hey, I gave about a nickel's worth of your bio right there. If you want to take some time right now and fill the other 95 cents in for the MisFitNation, the floor is yours.
You know, I mean, you covered it. Born and raised in Montana, from an agricultural family, rodeoed through high school. And I say those things because I think it gives me a different kind of grounding, you know, literally a grounding more towards the dirt, more towards the earth. So not from a military family at all. In fact, I had one uncle who served, and he was a tank mechanic. Other than that, father, grandfather, uncles, you know, great grandfather, you know, they were just not in the position where they passed the physical or whatever. So I was in basic training in 1989, and then I was in AIT in 1990. And as we graduated in August of 1990, normally, as you know, Jake, your family comes out and there's a big parade and everybody's happy. And then what? We get to take a couple of weeks to a month and go home and spend time with your family before the Army ships you off to the four corners of the world.
Yes.
We did not have that opportunity. In August of 1990, when we graduated, we were literally surrounded by a platoon of military policemen. Why? Well, when we joined, we were a nation at peace, right? Mm-hmm. And in August of 1990, that's when Saddam invaded Kuwait. And now we were a nation posturing for war. So nobody got to go anywhere except for the members in the National Guard, because the states actually owned us.
Yes.
So me and the guys that I joined with, why did I join? I joined the National Guard because my best friends did. And we were juniors in high school. I needed a note from my parents because I was a minor. A note from my principal. I'm not kidding. A note from my principal that said, he's on track to graduate. Without those two things, I couldn't have joined the National Guard at 17. Mm-hmm. So I followed them. Initially, I teased the hell out of them because they had given up their last summer of freedom. Jake, I teased them right up to the point where I knew that I was going to spend my last summer of freedom without my boys, Landon and Becker, twin brothers. So when that finally rolled around on May 12th, 1989, I ate crow, had my 2 letters signed, and went to the Army recruiter. So that's how I joined, and that's when I joined. And so fast forward back to August of 90. Obviously, something changed overnight.
Yeah.
Not so much for us. We were both, all 3 of us were enrolled in college. So we weren't in any danger of going anywhere, even if the Montana National Guard got called up. But man, to know that the men that I trained with, I say men because I was a 19 kilo. Jake was close. He was a 19 Delta, but he just came up that short. So I was qualified M1 Abram tank crew member. Already MOS qualified. So the day that the ground war started, I watched it very closely. I did two things. I dropped out of college and volunteered for the regular Army. That's one. And then I had to tell my family about what I had done. And man, nobody was happy. Nobody was proud. They were proud of the decision to join. But now, and you mentioned it pre-interview, what is the cost of war? It's the families, you know what I mean? So that got me started. I was regular Army over in Germany. From there, followed on to Saudi Arabia, and I was in Desert Storm. So got started in the military. Didn't, after we got back, after Desert Storm, the Army didn't have any money at all. You couldn't even start a tank. So sweeping the motor pool gets old after the second time you do it in the same week. So first reenlistment, I knew that I had more to give. And I ended up going Special Forces, and that started a 22-year career. And that actually culminated with 3 years in the CIA. It looked like I was still in the Army, but really I wasn't. I was a blue card case officer for the agency.
Okay.
And then I retired. I got out.
Nice. And retired to what I like to refer as God's country.
Only because you live here.
Exactly.
Because you live here.
Our stories are pretty much similar. I had a few uncles. My dad served, and when I told my dad that I was going to join the Army, he was pretty livid about it. He was an infantryman. And he was in the Army. He stood guard while they built the Berlin Wall. So that tells you kind of when he was in. And he was, he said, just don't be an infantryman. Don't be an infantryman. Don't be an infantryman. And then when I told him that I was a cavalryman, he about flipped his lid. But then
you followed his wish. But just freaking barely.
But and then after I realized that the Cav was not where it was at, and I went to EOD school and then got to do all kind of cool stuff and then retire. And so it was, it was a good life. It was hard. It was probably harder on loved ones, like you mentioned before, but it's been very rewarding, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat, as I'm sure you would.
Mm-hmm. Did your kids sign up, and did your kids join?
I had one son that joined, and he totally shattered his wrist and forearm in Ranger school. And basically bad enough, they said, hey, get out of the Army, and if you can heal and be functional within 5 years, you can come back in. And he still doesn't have, he can use his hand and his arm, but it's not as, he's not near 100% with it. So he went off to other things.
Were you from the same school as your dad? Did you want him to join, or did you recommend against it?
Yeah, I was proud of him. I didn't think he would, because him and my mom, or him and his mom, they were kind of out of the picture early in my life. He was raised by her. I saw him a lot, but I didn't have that much influence on him. But I must have had some. He wanted to be a Ranger. I don't know why he picked that, but that's what he wanted to do. And by all accounts, he was doing good until that happened to you?
I'm trying to do the beer math, guessing how old you are and guessing when he might have joined. I think he's close. Did he join pre 9/11 or post 9/11?
He was born in 1988, so he that would have been
2000.
He would have been post 9/11.
Yeah, it would have been 2000. I'm not good. That's why I call it beer math. But I got to tell you, man, any man or woman who raised their hand and volunteered for service post 9/11, certainly my heroes, because they did that with an expectation of serving their country in combat. The meat grinder was on, the meat grinder was on. So thank you for that. Now, any recruiter that's out there and can see this is not going to make you happy. I've told my kids from the time they were very young, if you want to disappoint me, you'll join the service. I'll support it, but it won't make me happy. Besides that, I've given enough service for all of us put together. So,
yeah.
and really, it's the beginning of the end of the family. So.
It is. There's probably only, and I tell you what, ground force recruiters are going to hate me for this. There's one service that I tell kids to strive for, and I only say this because I took my niece. She wanted to join the Coast Guard, and I took her down to see a Coast Guard recruiter. And you don't just walk in there and say, I want to join the Coast Guard, and they take you like the other services. That's a job interview. They decide whether or not they want you. And so I tell people to go to the Coast Guard.
I love that. What I was doing is AF. I thought you were going to say Air Force.
No.
I tell my kids that because, if you want it the worst, you join the Marine Corps. Like, I love the way this sucks, I'm going to be a Marine. Then if you're like, I don't mind the way this sucks, but give me some tools and stuff to do my job, join the Army. If you want to be on a boat with a bunch of other men, nothing wrong with that. It is what it is. You join the Navy, So, but let's use this Coast Guard enlistment as a soft segue into what I do.
Okay, let's do that.
Would you believe me if I told you that the highest rate of suicide amongst the 5 services, and I don't know if anybody in Space Forces has tragically ended their life, but I'm sure they have, but the highest branch of service for suicide is what would your guess be?
Well, since you're using the Coast Guard, I'd have to go Navy or Coast Guard.
It's the Coast Guard.
Wow.
It's the Coast. Now they don't account for as many as the Army. The Army is the biggest service, but their risk of suicide or their suicide rates are amongst the highest if you look back through the years. It's kind of weird, isn't it?
It is.
Demystifies, it proves one of the most, snap judgments about veteran suicide. And I see it all the time. And they say, I ask them, who's more at risk, combat veterans or non-combat veterans? Oh, combat veterans, because of the stuff they've seen. It's non-combat veterans. How else would the Coast Guard be the highest? And then later, if we have time to talk about moral injuries, if you please go to our YouTube channel. It's Checkavet 365 at Checkavet 365. You'll see me I'm out in Hawaii doing an interview with a guy, and the point of the interview was I'm always looking for an interview, just like you guys. It's not just about content. I need purposeful content, and so I did an interview about this because I can't have empathy for it because I went to combat 11 times. You shorted me one in the intro, but that's all right.
Sorry about that.
I guess
we'll
the
blame the producer.
Didn't count. It's okay. But, finding good interviews. So I can't have empathy for a non-combat veteran because we're not in the same boat. But I can have sympathy for anybody, especially non-combat veterans. So it was about a 45-minute interview. I thought it was good, but where he broke me down, when you see the Ray-Bans come down, Jake,
yeah,
I'm crying, bro. I asked him, I says, well, nearly in the end, purposely, I says, well, how does it make you feel to join after 9/11, give your service, and never go to combat? He looked at me, he says, man, I feel like a failure. Are you kidding me? All the other shit that we have on our necks, you're going to put on top of that, feel like a failure? Wow. So in this suicide prevention model, which really honestly started with me, you share my bio and my service and where I retired. That's a good setup for what had happened to me. I went from all of that stuff, the guys telling me that, they were still following me. I think mostly out of curiosity what the ding dong's going to do next. My commander still trusted me enough to put me in charge of people. And, I was at the top of my game. I just came back to 5th Special Forces Group from the agency. But I'm like, no, I'm going to retire. But I didn't have a good plan. So I went from all of those things to literally putting a dent in my bed. I think that this will resonate with a lot of veterans. I would burn up my time. I couldn't wait for nighttime to get there so that I could, reasonably be asleep, even though I was sleeping most days. Watch stupid Netflix series on stupid stuff, just to kill the time. And I was very depressed, absolutely isolated. And I had suicidal ideology, half because of my situation, but the other half because of the way that the military sets up your life insurance as you separate. Okay. When I got out, everything I touched turned to shit. I was disappointing my family. I could no longer provide the same way that I had while I was in the service. But man, we're smart, right? We try to figure out ways to get out of shit or to take care of our family. And the reality of it is, and I hope to affect change with this, and with a guy like Chris Miller, who was Trump's Secretary of Defense from his first term, his last one. I hope to do that. But so if you die in the first 6 months after you separate, it's like your retirement didn't count. Did you know that?
I did not.
You still get you still get the 400,000 life insurance. You still get the death gratuity, and then your family goes back to all of the benefits that you had when you were in the service. So it's like, man, and suicide is so often mischaracterized as always a selfish act. It's not true. In that circumstance, suicide is a very selfless act because you're putting the well-being of your family amongst yours. But
you have to ask yourself. You have to ask yourself though, when you're doing that, would my family rather have me around and struggle a little bit financially, or have this big paycheck but never see me again. You know, you got to kind of ask that too, because I mean, you know, if you're weighing stuff out and thinking about it, you need to ask that question. Now,
Right.
The current Mrs. Holland would probably say, let's struggle a little bit and keep you around. Number two would definitely been like, where do I sign to get my check? So
you're right. And that's the support that we have or don't have. And, you know, if you look at the mortar that binds veterans to their families, it's so fragile, man. And you think that especially families, neighbors, loved ones, like, you got to realize we owe everything to veterans. I'm a Christian, so I owe everything to Jesus and veterans, right?
Yes.
So be patient, have grace, quick to forgive, all that, but keep your freaking arms around your veteran. So, I mean, I was feeling bad enough. I still had, the wherewithal to reach out to my, she wasn't my ex-wife yet. We were working on it though. And just tell her, hey, I don't feel right. I don't know why, but I'm having thoughts of hurting myself. So I went through that, and, thankfully, she would have got that check, but thankfully, she was quick to communicate that no, it was me that was most important. And that all this stuff is a temporary problem or temporary problems. Do not apply a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Yeah, that's so one of our.
Yeah. So I'm literally living on Kentucky Lake in my houseboat at that time. How the hell do you feel sorry for yourself in those circumstances? Circumstance don't matter, man. It's what you have around you or what you don't have around you. So how this idea, like, oh my God, this will work. It was my neighbors who, we were all in a group. We always, got together and stuff. They noticed that I was no longer present. I was no longer part of that group. So they started checking on this vet. And we were good enough friends. They could just walk right into my boat. They didn't knock. But every time they caught me on my heels, man, like, when's the last time they gave me tough love? When's the last time you cleaned this place up? Have you had a shower? Is this the shit you're eating? What are you doing?
Yeah.
And them checking on me kind of brought me back to that part of my service where I didn't like being a soup sandwich. I needed to be squared away. So I started to make a difference in myself and the things that I was doing.
And you notice that you kind of got a tribe that cares about you.
I love that you say that, the tribe. I'm going to make a note of that. We'll circle back. But absolutely. Absolutely. You do have a tribe. So they gave me tough love, but then, man, they also gave me love. They're like, hey, we're going to be over there in 15 minutes. Sunglasses, shorts, flip-flops. We're going out on the pontoon boat. You're coming. Not, would you like to come? Because that kind of sets you up for, no, I don't want to come. We're going to be there. You're coming. Fine, I'll come. So they got me back out in the sunshine and really turned me around. And more than that, they let me know that somebody cared about me, cared enough about me to do that. Not once, not twice, not a text, freaking be on my porch. You know what I mean? And look after me and take care of me. But really, the point of Check a Vet is not just our motto is, have you checked on your veteran today, in the hopes that we can get Americans to bring veterans into their circle so that those Americans see what that veteran's normal is. That's being on a tribe, like looking somebody every day, a few times a week, whatever, and know what they're going through, and as I've learned so much, I'm self-study about suicide, and somehow Some people think of me as a leading expert on nationally veteran suicide prevention. In fact, don't worry, I said no. That's the setup. In fact, the day after President Trump got reelected, I was asked to be the secretary of the Department of Veterans Affairs.
Whoa.
That's how much a couple of people think that I have the ability to lead and to make a difference in veteran suicide. Anyways, I said no, resist, but so I've become that just through self-study and understanding, and just that isolation and the being alone. It really affects you in so many different ways. And I think for me and a lot of my brothers and sisters, as I talk to them, you kind of lose the gumption to get anything done.
Yes, you do.
I need to call, about a bill, or I need to call or help with this or help with the bank. Hey, man, pay attention here. If you're meaningfully involved in your veteran's life, meaningfully and routinely, you'll know what they're struggling with. You'll know what they're struggling with enough to advocate for them. Help them make that call.
Yeah.
Make that call for them, right? That's a big
Yes.
game changer. You're showing love, you're showing help, and you're showing that you care.
Yes.
It was those things that made a big difference to me.
All right. Hey, I'm going to cut right there. Okay. Hey, I was getting ready to pop this up. From Selena Shear is here. There was a guest on here a couple weeks ago that said there is a rash of suicides in the Navy. What are the actual numbers, if you know?
Suicide reporting is so jacked up. In active service, I think that the numbers are manipulated way more than they are amongst veterans. To qualify that, right? If you Google veteran suicide, like how many veterans have ended their life since 9/11, what you're going to find is 30,177. Really? Wow, that's a lot, right? 30,000? How much would you have thought it was? How many veterans do you think have ended their life by suicide? We'll circle back to the Navy thing here in a minute.
I would probably guess between 30 and 40,000.
Right.
Or maybe between 40 and 50. We'll go with
Okay.
that.
That's a lot. And it's a lot when you consider in combat since 9/11, the United States has only lost, with what we got going on in Iran now, it's like 7,100 troops and contractors. So, man, that you're talking about 5 times the amount of troops we've lost in combat. This is where the manipulation comes in. Does the VA have a number? Does the VA report how many veterans we've lost to suicide?
I'm sure. Do they not?
They do not. They do not list a total. They list in the middle of their report. In the middle of their report, I like the data that you have there, that you just came up with. So in the middle of their report, they'll give an annual answer. So if you can do math, which I did, once I found the appendix, because it was hidden. Now I like to hope it was the squeaking that Chekovet did in the lack of the data being convenient to find. So if you find Appendix 8 from the reporting and can do math, you'll know that the VA's number as of 2 years ago, because it takes them 2 years to get caught up, 1 year, it's 144,435.
Now, I got a question to ask about that. Those are provable. This was suicide. But then you have the outliers. How many do we have that were ruled as accidental overdoses.
That's not considered a suicide. Any overdose,
even if I do it purposely,
not considered a suicide by the VA.
Automobile accidents, or accidents, where somebody hits a tree going 120 mile an hour.
Single vehicle, high speed accidents that don't injure anybody else.
Yeah, those don't pass the sniff test. Something was wrong. No brake marks before they hit whatever they hit. Something.
If you fall off a bridge or a cliff, not a suicide.
Yeah, you just fell.
These are called, that would be a non-natural death. That's how the VA classifies them. Drug overdose, not a suicide. And you have the data in front of you. Is this somebody who was trying to get high, or was this somebody swinging for the fence? What's the blood alcohol content of the drug that killed them?
Yes.
We can be thoughtful. If they find you in your garage with your car running, that's a non-natural death. Like, you might have forgotten to shut it off when you came home from work. See the problem? Yes. After those things are excluded, that's where the VA comes up with 144,435. So now let's talk more about what are the real numbers. And these numbers and these reporting problems are the same, I think, worse for active duty. So there was a Bristol Myers Squibb did a grant to the American Warrior Partnership, and they did this study called Operation Deep Dive. Okay, Operation Deep Dive looked at 5 states over 7 years, looked at every single death, and then they had to figure out, was this a veteran or was it not? They proved that the VA's number was underreported by a factor of 2.4. What? So that 2.4 factor times the 144,000, 360,000 American heroes. That's 50 suicides, 50 to each service member and contractor we lost on the battlefield.
Wow.
Yeah. But you know what? That's the number that's on the side of my truck. I'll be standing in front of my truck interviewing somebody like, hey, man, how bad do you think the problem is? I don't know. You want to know? So in order to, I eventually actually Chris Miller did the hit on it. He did the video. It's what is your veteran suicide IQ? So I would just ask my friends, how much do you think? How many do you think? And you hear a mixed bag, mostly around the number that you gave, 20 or 30,000. And I love my psychiatrist from the VA, but that guy, he actually did the worst of anybody that I had ever talked to. His guess was 6,000.
Wow.
A mental health professional working for the VA. Those HR training modules could do a hell of a lot better in informing their employees of the problem. So,
yeah. Now, do you think it's because the military, DOD does not want this labeled as an epidemic? Which I still think, even with the low number that they're giving, I still think it's an epidemic. But
it is an epidemic.
And do you
I
think that's why they try to
firsthand
keep that
experience
lower?
Oh, the number's way higher. It's it's probably higher than veteran suicide. And in some states, as you look at them, like Montana, their rate of suicide is nearly 10 times that of civilians. 10 times. So there's a lot of shenanigans that go along with that. Now, circling back to the job that I was offered, I was asked first, if you could do a job for the next 4 years, what would you do? And I was talking to Chris Miller. He's the one that pitched. I said, man, the job I would want's not even a job. He's like, what do you mean? I said, make me the veteran suicide czar of America. Let me take all of the shit that the VA is messing up and report it. Let's let the CDC and SAMHSA report veteran suicides. They're already doing it for everybody, and their numbers are so different from the VA's. Hey, it's like, did the FAA believe Boeing when their planes started falling out of the sky? Our planes are fine. You can't report something and be your own watchdog and do good, right? Well, actually, you'll do great, but it's BS. I said, Chris, make me the veteran suicide czar of America. Give me all the resources that I think I might want, because they're going to be a lot more than what I need to make a difference. Let me reach into the VA and pull all the bullshit that they're, playing games with, and let me be responsible. Let me report these numbers responsibly. And when you look at the VA will tell you on average in a year, there's about 6,250. If you go back years times 2.4, that equates to 15,000 veterans each year. What's the national rate of suicide? I got to know these two. Otherwise I can't compare shit. It's 40 plus thousand. Veterans make up 1% to 2% of the population of America, and they're responsible for a third of suicides nationwide. Let's do something different, guys. You know what I mean? We have to, because what we're doing is simply not working. Where you and Rich found us, and most recently to set this interview up, you saw us at NASCAR, at a NASCAR race. That's one of our 4 programs, and that's really where the rubber meets the road. Going to a NASCAR event for us is not fun. Going to a NASCAR race for us is us being out front, providing free education, like what we talked about before the interview. If you go, like all of your listeners, like, stop putting this shit off. Go to checkavet.org now. Scroll a third of the way down the landing page and download your free tool. Jake did, and I think he was pretty impressed by what was there.
Hey, it's got all the questions. It's got what to look for, how, and it tells you how to ask that hard question. And I'm just going to put a pitch in there right now. People, if you care about somebody and think that they want to do harm for themselves, just come right out and ask. Say, don't give them an out. Say, hey.
How do you ask them, Jake? You're about the only person that I've ever asked who got it right.
And chances are they will tell you, they will be truthful with you, and they will tell you yes, and probably feel relieved that somebody cared enough to notice that they were having problems.
But let's tell your listeners, because you got it right, man. How do you ask that question? You think I'm in crisis or having problems? How would Jake ask Michael the hard question?
I'd be like, Mike, I've known you for a few years now, or however long we've known one another. You're acting a bit off. Are you thinking about hurting yourself?
Yes. That is how you not yes to the question. That is how you ask the question. Don't form that question in a negative context, like, you're not thinking about hurting yourself, are you? Or you would never hurt yourself, would you? Because that gives the guy or gal an out. Like, nah, not me, never. But you're so right about what you said after that. At NASCAR or any of the events that we go to, to provide free education, to raise awareness to how bad the problem is. I don't know why, but so many people come to me and they've never told anybody that they're feeling suicidal, but they'll tell me, like I told you, sometimes I can hear it. Or I can smell it on them. So when they do, you're right, man. They feel relieved. They feel relieved that they actually told somebody, right? They feel
Yeah,
relieved that they actually told somebody.
it's just like it's like anything else. You do something so bad, so reprehensible that you think that everybody's going to hate you. You're the only one that knows that you did it, and so you have to. Once you tell somebody, once you tell somebody what you have done or what, it's like a weight is lifted off your shoulders, and you start climbing out of that hole right there. And that's just me. That's the way I feel about it.
The numbers show, the data shows. I'm a data weenie, man. I went from breaking shit and hurting people to save Americans and American interests and Iraqis and all that. So, man, I'm a data weenie, and my only aspirations is to know more data, so that I can be educated in trying to convince people. And if you go to our YouTube channel, check it at 365 at YouTube. Find the video numbers. Chris Miller actually does that. He sets it up, and actually that's better than Suicide IQ. Anyways, for every suicide, there's about 12 people seriously admitted for a suicide attempt in the ER. There's about 27 people hospitalized. And it goes on and on and on till, like, for each suicide, the data shows that about 264 people consider suicide as an out. So you do 264 times 40,000. There's a lot of people thinking about suicide. But what you have to do, and our tools do it when you downloaded it, you have to assess somebody's suicidality. What's that mean? Is this somebody who had a bad day and they're like, screw it, I'm going to do it? That's an impulsive suicide, and that could happen. Or is this somebody who thinks about it and then puts together a plan? I'm going to do it like this. And then they resource the plan, and then they find themselves, like a friend of mine, he found himself in a field with a can of gasoline and a lighter and a cell phone. Are they ready to do it? So understanding suicide and thinking that you're not alone is a huge relief off of you. It really is.
You mind if I tell a little story here?
No, go ahead.
Very good friend of mine. We were stationed at White Sands together. I got there in 1990. Then we both ended up going to Germany, and we were close. We were in two separate units in Germany. He was in K-Town, and I was in Wildflicken. And I'd run down to K-Town every now and then and see him. And then he gives me a call. He says, "Hey," he says, "I'm kind of traveling around Germany, seeing some folks." He said, "You got room in your barracks to put me up for a few days?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, come on." So he comes up, stays with me for about a week. We do some demo ops and whatever we're doing, and then I got him back to the train station. He went back to K-Town, and about a week later, I got on a plane and come back to Huntsville to go to BNOC. And while I was in BNOC, he laid all his stuff out on his bunk, cleaned and inventoried all his TA-50, signed out his shotgun from the arms room, and went out to the range in the woods there around K-Town and took his own life. And thinking back on it, of course, they say hindsight's always 20/20. He was traveling around telling everybody goodbye. And there was a big write-up in the Army Times about him. And his name was Randy Allrand. And that one stuck with me. That one, I should have saw the signs, but, we weren't doing all the training back then for all this. But, as a friend, I should have saw the signs and I did not.
Those are pretty subtle signs though, man. And what you just talked about, you ain't going to find that in a book. That is a very nuanced. Normally, in conversations, as I do a lot of what's called the suicide autopsy, and again, go to our website. You'll see me interviewing a Black veteran. He was so amazing, and he told me about his whole. Like he took that bottle of pills. So I say he killed himself. Yep. But God wasn't done with that guy yet. So he woke up feeling fine the next morning. But anyways, when you look at that, it's hard to go back and play it again. But was he in those conversations talking about things like, I won't need it anymore? Or a lot of times they'll give things away. But normally there's something in their vernacular about the way they're talking that kind of closes the door on much of a future for them. And that's the nuance where you got to go. But yeah, what you're telling me, Jake, that's a tough one. That's really tough. Compare that, go back to NASCAR. We're there. One, we're there to raise awareness, but two, we're there to talk to people and hear their pain, hear their stories, and try to find interviews like the ones I'm talking about. But some Americans think that it's going to happen to their veterans, so they just accept it even when they're still alive. Yeah. I had a dad tell me about his daughter. He said, "Yeah, this is what I hate. I hate it. Nobody saw it coming." And I'm hugging and crying with the person, but inside the back of my head, I'm like, "Yeah, you didn't see it coming because you didn't bother to see what the problem looks like. You could have spent 5 minutes on my website. You could hit that QR code right there and see what it looks like. You didn't care what it looks like enough to not do anything." So this guy was the same thing. No one saw it coming. And then he says, "Yeah, I mean, she told us that she was suffering. Nobody saw it coming. She actually told us she was going to kill herself. Nobody saw it coming. She told us when she was going to do it and how she was going to do it. But nobody saw it coming. And then she did it." I'm thinking, are you kidding me right now? It's like it's a predestined thing, and it's not. We have to do something about it and finding that thing. But really, when you feel somebody's off because you're including them in your tribe, right? About that, you're in your tribe. It's so important. But nationally, suicide is preventable. Each suicide is an individual thing, and through education, through doctrine, all of it is if you're involved, then you can prevent a suicide. So inject yourself into the problem. But do we just have a few minutes left, or can we go long?
You know what? If we go long, we go long. Okay. This is something very, very important. And,
right.
Now we got, whatever Jeff wants to know, what's one thing civilians can do this week to better support the veterans in their own communities?
So if you're talking about a community engagement, we got that. I have a program for you for an individual to engage veterans. So you could be a part of like the VFW's auxiliary, right? I'm shaking my head no, because what is the VFW suicide prevention plan? Anyone? Anyone? Nothing. My VFW says that they're going to spend $20,000 and buy simulators to play video games because that's going to bring veterans in crisis in there. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, that's a suicide prevention because it causes camaraderie. I said, one, you probably don't want to be playing violent games with somebody who's on edge. But two, what's the connect? There's no personal connection, right? So it's about that connectivity. If you want to do something for the veterans in your community, like a touch point, go to your local VA. You don't have to be a veteran to do this, and tell them you want to volunteer.
Okay.
That's a great way, right?
And there's a big one.
Do not fall for these nonprofits who are doing housing, who promote. If they say anything and at the end of it they say to prevent veteran suicide, not true. They're doing that anything. They're doing houses, they're doing dogs, they're doing equine stuff. A suicide prevention model has to be grounded in suicide prevention. I study that at the World Health Organization level. That's how I can kind of unravel the BS about it's just guns. Nationally, the national priority, politics aside, the national priority to prevent veteran suicide is get veterans separated from their guns, gun safe, something like that. Hey man, it's not guns. And by studying at the World Health Organization, I know that the worldwide weapons is the fourth leading cause, not the leading cause. In America, it is the leading cause. But anyways, you have to study suicide prevention across the world and then across the U.S., state, and even local health departments. Why? Because frickin' Princeton, Kentucky is a little bit different from San Francisco and New York City and Chicago.
Yes.
What's relevant where they're at. So if you're going to help any organization with the end state of preventing suicide, you have to be grounded in this stuff. And I'm going to back that up 1,000,000%. You look at the data. What's the data say? The data, I believe, is about 15,000 veterans each year end their life by suicide. Okay. There are 16 million veterans left. Okay. So you would have to do your thing, whatever your thing is, about 4,000 times to actually come across a veteran who's actually in crisis, who's actually going to hurt themselves. Right?
Yes.
No. I have that many people walk in front of our booth at NASCAR every 20 minutes, every 15 minutes, sometimes every 5 minutes. You're at the Coca-Cola 600, and they get drawn in, and they get hope. They have somebody listen to them, and they have free tools like the one that you downloaded. Okay. But to answer your question, man, go to the VA. Tell them you want to volunteer. Give them, some time during your week. I think you might even be able to do it on weekends. I don't know if you use Marion or Nashville. I use Nashville, and I love it. As I come in, there's people welcoming me. There's people saying, "Where are you going?" And they're not pimping me for information. They say, "Where are you going?" I'm like, I got this appointment. And they're like, "Can we show you the way? Maybe have a little conversation." Do that. Yeah.
And I got to give a big shout out to the VA in Oklahoma City. I went out there with my brother-in-law. He had an appointment. He had appointments stacked up. He was going to be there for 2 or 3 hours. And I'm like, I'm not going to sit in the waiting room of this hospital for 2 or 3 hours and wait on him. And I told him, I said, "Hey, I'm going to go check some stuff out." And I went down to their little volunteer room and talked to the lady in charge. I'm like, "Hey, are there any veterans who are hospitalized here that have been here a long time and nobody ever comes to visit?" And she's like, "Well, why do you want to know that?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm here waiting on somebody to do their appointments, and I ain't got nothing better to do than go sit in a room with somebody and talk to them." And she goes, "Well, that's a good idea." So she sat me down with some old retired colonel that was bedridden and we sat there and we talked for about 2 hours. Had a blast.
How happy was he?
He acted like he was happy. So,
So that's a good way. Now, let me talk about some of our other engagements or other programs, because you have to know with Check a Vet, with any nonprofit, resources are the volume knob to your mission. Okay.
Mhm.
You can have the cure to cancer. If you're a nonprofit, if you can't market your programs and let people know, hey, I have the cure to cancer, you're never going to make a difference. So one, you got to have resources. This summer, the CFO, Chief Financial Officer for the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation, moved beside me. And for the weeks that it took, that I kept saying, I got to stop in there and give him a pie or a cake and welcome him to the neighborhood. But I was too busy. Everybody's too busy. Stop. Never be too busy to be helpful. But so we were loading up to go somewhere, and this guy I didn't know was walking his dog. And he stood there, and he's standing on the road looking in like, I don't know what these people are like. I said, hey, man, come on in. Everybody's welcome. This is a safe place. The guns are anyway. Yeah. So his name is Charles, CFO for like 15 years, in the space for 35 years. And he said, I want you to know that I looked into your nonprofit. This should matter because people should look at their philanthropy, their generosity, their donations the same way they look at their personal investments. Charles says, I looked into your nonprofit. Normally, to me, that means somebody bounced off my landing page after about 10 seconds, right? Oh, this is neat. Mm-hmm. He looked at my nonprofit the way I look at other nonprofits. What's my mission? What's my approach? Prevent veteran suicide. How am I going to do that? What are my resources? That has to equal your impact to humanity. If you're doing a good job, it will. If you're not, I don't want to offend anybody. These are facts. Breast cancer awareness, right? Let's all wear pink and let's all raise awareness for breast cancer. It's the Breast Cancer Foundation, National Breast Cancer Foundation. Originally in their mission statement, it was to find a cure for breast cancer. Okay. How long has that been around? 35 years?
It's been around a while.
Their mission was that: find a cure and prevent breast cancer. What was their approach? Well, everybody wears pink and think about breast cancer. And God forbid, if you lose one of your family members or friend to breast cancer, we hope that they'll donate to us. That's their approach. Everybody wear pink. What are the resources? Over $1 billion. I think they're close to 1.5 billion. Mm-hmm. What's their impact to humanity? Have they prevented breast cancer? Have they come up with a cure? No. Their impact to humanity are these two things. Get them squeezed earlier in life and more frequently, and hopefully you won't get it. What did you do with all the money? Jake, you and me are smart guys. I think we could have figured that out over a cup of coffee.
Yeah, and that's probably
what's mushy is their approach. What's your mission? How are you going to do it? Right.
And this is probably a conversation for a different evening, but I've got my opinions on why cancer is not cured yet. But
never work yourself out of your job. Sorry.
Yeah, you hit it, buddy.
But no. So Charles says, no, I looked into your nonprofit, and I want you to know that I've never seen another nonprofit as fiscally responsible as Check a Vet. He said, you're responsible to a fault. And I knew right away what he was talking about. If you go to our website, all nonprofits are required to disclose their financials on their website with a link. Mm-hmm. So he said, he said, you are jeopardizing everything that you do because you're so responsible. And I said, yeah, it's because I put our ledger every year. I put our entire ledger on the website. Nobody else does that. He said, you're responsible to a fault. And I said, yeah, it's because I'm afraid to death of this money. But I want people to know when they look like you looked, I'm doing the right thing with my resources, my mission, my approach, my resources. Now help me turn it up. He said, I want to volunteer with you 8 hours every week. He's retired and be your CFO. Wow.
Awesome.
You ain't going to pull the wool over on a guy like that. So
no,
understanding that what your money is doing when whoever you're giving it to like that. And now I'll take however many seconds it takes and bust out the Wounded Warrior Project. Right. I've given briefs once I gave a brief in Western North Carolina to 2,000 people, and they were all excited. It was a Veterans Day event. And man, this community really got together, all of them. VFW, American Legion in the same room without a fight breaking out and all this. And I'm like, this is how all communities need to be. So please raise your hand if you give money every month to support a veteran nonprofit. All these hands go up. I'm not surprised. I do this a lot. I said, all right, put your hands down. Raise your hand if you donate to the Wounded Warrior Project. At least half or more of those hands shot back up. I said, that's incredible. You guys are very generous. Thank you for looking after veterans. Actually, the Wounded Warrior Project only helps veterans who are post 9/11. But anyways, let's put them back down. Raise your hand if you know a single veteran that's actually been helped by the Wounded Warrior Project. No hands. No hands. They're fundraising. They've already been in trouble for it several times. Anyways, please know any penny, and every penny is precious, that you guys donate to Check a Vet. Hey, man. The first person I got on my board was the Secretary of Defense, Chris Miller. I'm surrounded by PhDs, and I'm terrified of the money, so I'm going to be overly transparent and responsible.
It's kind of like, if you think back in the day, in Iraq and Afghanistan, if you've ever had to do for it, you sign for that foo money.
I'm not under investigation, am I?
No, neither am I.
SF guys do that a little bit different.
Well,
we got to make shit happen.
Yeah, I completely understand.
My camp in Eastern Iraq had 10 Americans on it. We figured shit out. Anyways, so you're talking about the foo and the poo. I got it.
Yeah, and we was told that spend all of it you want, but you got to have receipts for it. I tell you what, I stuck that stuff in the safe, locked it up, and turned it in just like I found it.
Yeah. I spent millions, man. Millions.
Hey,
I just had a receipt for it all, Jake.
I understand.
And they were all very legitimate, I assure you.
I understand.
Most of them were needed.
I'm going to ask the producer real quick. Hey, if you've got Check a Vet's website up, Rich, why don't you pop that up on the screen? We're going to go through some of that for some folks.
Let me talk about our other programs while we're talking about mission, approach, resources, impact to humanity.
Okay.
So we've not only done the raise awareness and, produced, I think we're up to like 600 and some posts across our social media, videos like the one you just saw, like you can prevent a veteran suicide all the way at the top. You just got to decide that it starts with you and be that little red guy. That's where it starts. So not only are we doing that, but hey, nationwide, and we're looking for veterans who care enough about their brothers and sisters. And sometimes it's a veteran who has personal struggles. reach out, go to our volunteer page. You can show them where that is from the header, and you can start your own meeting for veterans. It's in the model of AA, but there's no 12 steps, and it's not a shame thing. It's about camaraderie. Jake, it's about getting together and doing the good stuff that we did when we were off duty or whatever. Like, when's the last time you sat down with, played spades with somebody?
Oh, Lord.
We find physical activities and stuff to do. Engage in the community. You also show the community the value of the veterans that they have in. And you can tell them that veterans bring in about $25,000 on average for each one. So you might want to treat them better.
Yes.
Yeah. So create a safe space. We call it Team Room. We will extend to you our 501c3 status. We will help you market the thing so that you can actually find veterans. And directly, we'll work with you to make this a success. Think about where you work, think about your church, think about, the groups that you're in. Find 10, 12 other veterans and start doing this. Jake, you're from Princeton, between Princeton and Katie's. How many times do you go into a restaurant and see that big group of farmers?
Yeah. And most of them are veterans.
That is it. That is their tribe. And you bet your ass if one of those guys misses the meeting or misses the get together, hey man, what's going on? You all right? They're organically doing it. So let us help you with your own team room. If you're a veteran and you're tired of it and you want to do something, know in advance, this is hard stuff and it's going to take your time.
Okay.
But we deserve your time, fellow veterans and civilians. So team room, what we do, raising awareness, providing free education, 1. Team rooms, 2. If you're a civilian with a veteran in your life, I need you to be a part of Operation Safe House. Okay. Safe House is a private group on Facebook whose whole purpose is to share their experiences, what works and what doesn't work in how they take care of their veteran. As I tell my friends and, my peers from when I was in the military, and now if they're not out, they're, 3, 2, 4-star generals and, senior enlisted. I love to engage them at a formal or some kind of event where their wife's there. And I'll look them right in the face and I'll say, sir, what's special about Checovet is it's not for you. I'll turn to their wife and I say, this is for you. Because frankly, you don't have the tools that you need to take care of what's left after this guy's service. So Safe House is about people coming together, sharing their stories, what we're working towards right now. We're working towards it. We need your help. We need resources to hire people to do this. But picture this, a forum, just like the Ford Forum. You go to Checovet's forum for Safe House. What is your veteran's problem? This is how we're going to break it down. Transition stress, post-traumatic stress disorder. It's not a disorder, but that's what people call it. Traumatic brain injury. These last 2 really matter because I think that they account for more suicides than anything else. Military sexual trauma. Okay.
Yes.
Men are now at a higher risk. It doesn't happen quantifiably more. They're at a higher risk of military sexual trauma, politics aside. Thanks, Clinton. Thanks, Obama. You know what I mean? Because they won't report their perpetrator. So the perpetrator keeps on perpetrating. So we would be amiss if we didn't add military sexual trauma because that's a unique kind of weight on somebody's neck. And then the last one is moral injuries. Okay. So if you're a veteran or a civilian who have think about that Vietnam husband or wife. Holy crap. That is an institution of knowledge. what works, like what are their problems? Okay, we'll talk about PTSD. Be a commentator here. Like define the problem, and then these are all of the, the comments. Think about the stuff that they can add, but not only that, they're there so you could DM them. Think about the value of that across all of those subjects, and people who want to come forward and help to build this database. Think about that for that young husband or wife who's getting out and their veteran is not acting right. They know that they have PTSD. They know they have TBI. They know their stories. They know what's wrong with them. Hey, let's make this so you can go to the forum, look it up, and get some ideas of shit that works, because I want that to be sure, but also things that didn't work.
Yeah.
And that might just be for their veteran, but still. Where else can you find this information, Jake?
It's you have to know somebody that went through it or really deep dive, but you've got it right there.
This needs to be
on those forums.
This needs to be a real thing. Go to checkavet.org, contribute to help us. These are the things we're spending our money on. So the first three things: raise awareness, team room, bring veterans together in the style of AA, safe house. That is in the style of Al-Anon, like educate the base of support for an addict to keep them from reusing. Let's educate the base of support for struggling veterans so we know how to take care of them. Each of those three things require somebody to sacrifice their time, to sacrifice their tears, and to sacrifice their help to help a veteran. In this day and age, man, I can't get people to put their phone down long enough to pay attention to what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So what we've done, the idea that God's given me, and he's given me all these ideas. I'm dumb. That's why I became a warrant officer. I can copy shit, and change the names to protect the innocent and repost it. Anyways, no, all of this is grounded in the Father. Okay, and He gave me a way to take it out of the hands of people, who might want to give some time or whatever. Let's make it mandatory. How are you going to do that? We're creating an HR training module. What? Normally, every HR training module that I know of, sexual harassment in the workplace, equal opportunity, fill in the blanks, those are all about litigation, mitigation. Please don't sue our company because we told you not to do it, right? This Operation Safety Net, this is not about that. This is how employers invest in their employees, especially their veterans. We're trying to market towards, industry with a disproportionately high percentage of veterans, like the trucking industry.
Yes.
Would you be surprised if I told you that 1 in 4 veterans, 25% of all veterans, are in the transportation industry?
It would not surprise me in the least.
That's the data. Okay. What's the problem with the industry? They're isolating themselves through their occupation.
Yes.
There's some special stuff that we need for that. So let's build an HR training module that will have 6 modules, right? Think about this. People don't have to want to do this. They have to do it. It's mandatory. I don't know, companies like Landstar, Amazon, TA, Pirelli, Kenworth. These are the companies that are so excited about it. I hope that they, make an earnest investment in it. So one, I want the first training module for Operation Safety Net to be generic suicide prevention for everybody. Okay. Because like I said earlier, there's more than 40,000 suicides nationwide. Let's all become a little more educated, a little more aware, and a lot more sensitive, and realize that suicide prevention can start with the handshake in the morning. And you say, hey, how are you doing?
Yes.
And be interested in the reply, not, hey, oh. So let's educate everybody on basic suicide prevention for everybody, because that's the base of our knowledge, right?
Yes.
And then we're going to wrap the camouflage around it like we do, like Chekovit does with everything, and really consider the veteran issues. It's the same sequence, you know. The next module is on transition related stress and the unique suicide risk factors that brings in and how they present. PTSD, TBI, military sexual trauma, and moral injury. Each one of those is a module. You'll walk away understanding, at least having a general understanding of the problems and the unique sets that each one of those has. Man, I hope nothing else, you just become a little more aware and don't be afraid. Like the first thing we talked about, Jake, don't be afraid to ask that question.
That's right.
Contrary to popular belief, because it's not grounded in education, you are not going to put a suicidal idea in somebody's mind by asking them.
No, you are not. You are not.
The data, the research, and the education shows that that's not true. So those are the 4 things that we're doing. But man, we need help. Know that we're financially responsible to a fault. I will show you every penny that's come and gone in the last 5 years.
I will put that out right now.
I hate to say it. A lot of people like to hear it, but they don't understand the problem. I haven't paid myself a penny in 5 years. In spite of my board trying to pay me, I don't think we have the resources to pay me yet. God forbid anything happened to me. You know, good luck finding somebody else who has this much time, this much willingness to self-study and all that. It's sabotaging to any mission. Nonprofits need to attract talent. You can't attract talent if, you know, well, hey, come on, you're awesome. You're going to volunteer your time. It's not a thing. But you will see in there that nobody has received a paycheck. I had a bookkeeper that got a couple $100 a month because I didn't want to deal with that stuff anymore. He was on a 1099. That's it. So
I completely understand that. Well, hey, we are probably getting close to where we need to start wrapping up here.
Did we answer all the questions? I get to rattling on. I hope I'm entertaining, but at the end of the day, I just rattle on. Did we answer all the questions from and comments from your viewers?
I think we did. The producer did not throw any up, and I do want to shout out real quick to make an announcement. I did make an announcement at the first part of the show that Rocky has been found, but I want to give a shout out to everybody. We had people out throwing up game cameras. We had people in Sango actively out looking for this dog, and just all the people that helped, all the people that called in with Rocky sightings, just thanking everybody, and thanks that Rocky has been found. Amen. Now, I got a question for you. If every veteran in America were watching us right now, and you had just 60 seconds to speak directly to just them, especially the ones who feel forgotten or that are quietly struggling, what would you want them to hear?
Reach out. You know, we can reach out to family members and friends, but they'll never connect like reaching out to another veteran. Let them know what you're going through. They're going to let you know you're not alone. They might have struggles themselves. Get back on that tribe, whatever it looks like. Is it something like Team Room? Is it something like the farmers getting together? Because when you're alone, that's when you're susceptible. When you isolate yourself, that's when you start listening to the bullshit that's in your head. You're loved. You're appreciated. You know, get out in front of people so that you can realize and understand that. And never, ever, ever apply a permanent solution to a temporary problem. No matter how much sense it might make to you at the time. We talked about this a little bit before. A lot of people save suicide is always a selfish act. No, you can rationalize it, money, whatever, and you can make it a selfless act. So no matter what, you're going to be missed. You're loved. Get back on your tribe. Surround yourself with other veterans that in an organization that's about camaraderie. Not what I experienced in the VFW and American Legion business meeting. Listen to the same three people talking about how they want to spend $5. That's not camaraderie. Meaningful and routine connections. And hey, last thing, go to checkavet.org. Read through our stuff. Look at that tool. It's going to make sense. And no, you're not alone, man. You're not alone. For each suicide, 264 people are thinking about it. So
yes,
don't be afraid. Don't think that you're alone, because you're not. We're here for you.
All right. Well, Michael, thank you very much. Real quick, Misfit Nation, if you are out there and you're struggling tonight, just know that there are people out there to help you. If you don't have anybody to call, get on that phone, dial 988. If you're a veteran, take option 1. Somebody will work to help get you the help you need. If you don't want to do that, hit us up at the Misfit Nation, Jake at the MisFitNation.com, Steven at the MisFitNation.com, or info at the MisFitNation.com. Drop us a line, leave your number, we'll call you back because we love each and every one of you. And tomorrow will not be as beautiful a day if you're not in it. Michael, I want to thank you very much for this conversation. It's something that's very near and dear to my heart and us here at the Misfit Nation. And we're proud to have you on here. And since we live so close, I'm looking forward to shaking your hand here in the near future.
Sounds good. We'll get together. I think we're only 20 or 25 miles away, as luck would have it. So,
yeah, I've got to
yes, sir.
And
I thank you guys. Rich hit me up for this interview at an event. I think it was in Nashville. Everybody needs to take a personal inventory on what they're doing or what they're not doing for their veterans. You know, have me on as often as you like. Nothing else. I'm a ding dong and I can be entertaining, but all of your listeners need to take a personal inventory of what they have done over the last year and what they should do, and reach out, give some love to your veterans, man. They need it.
All right. Well, with that, we are going to scoot on out of here. And Misfit Nation, don't forget to check us out on Reads Across America. And until next time, I will see you on Tuesday.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation show. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. That's themisfitnation.com. Check out all our past episodes and get some of the great Misfit Nation gear for you and your family. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling, because we are Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation.